Yo, chat, what's up? Today we are reacting. I gotta do something really quickly. I'll do it if I can get this. If another stream happens today, I'm gonna have to send a picture to my friend. I'm gonna send a picture to my friend so he can probably join us. But today we are reacting to his story. Today we're reacting to his story. Wait, I need to... First, I just noticed I'm not subscribed to him. I'm gonna put on notifications. No notifications. Okay. The first video.
I was doing 90 through the mountains to make my daughter's 6 a.m. surgery when something with red eyes the size of headlights came out of the tree line and ran alongside my truck. My mouth went dry so fast I could barely swallow, but I told myself it was exhaustion making me see things. I hadn't slept since yesterday morning, and I'd been driving 12 hours straight, racing to make it before they took my daughter back. She was 7. Her heart surgery started at 6, and I'd promised I'd be holding her hand when she went under. My GPS suggested the Miller Creek Bridge shortcut to shave 20 minutes off the drive, so I took it and kept my eyes locked forward while whatever was in the trees kept pace beside me. It stayed next to me for a full mile, its eyes flashing every time my headlights swept past, and I kept both hands locked on the wheel and told myself to just keep moving. Then it dropped back and vanished, and I finally let myself breathe. I caught my own eyes in the rearview mirror, red-rimmed and exhausted. "You're just seeing things," I said out loud. "Get it together. She needs you." When I looked back at the road, its eyes were ahead of me at the entrance to the bridge. I screamed and jerked the wheel so hard my shoulder slammed into the door. I wrestled the truck straight and told myself to floor it, but it stepped into the road, wings folded tight against a body taller than my truck, and I had to bite back a scream. Past its shoulder, something was wrong with the road ahead. No reflectors, no railing, just dark. My foot slammed the brake before I understood why. I stopped close enough to see its eyes weren't blinking, just holding steady on me. Past it, the bridge over Miller Creek was gone, ripped down to twisted metal, black water rushing where the road should have been. I couldn't make a sound. It hadn't been chasing me. It had been running ahead of me, trying to get in front of me before I hit the water. I sat there with my hands shaking on the wheel, realizing the thing I'd been terrified of was the only reason I was still alive. I turned the truck around and took the long way to the hospital. I made it with 2 minutes to spare, and after they wheeled her back, I sat in the waiting room and looked up what I'd seen. Every story started the same way. Something warning people away from a bridge right before it fell. They all called it by the same name, Mothman. I was doing 90 through the mountains to make my...
So, that's crazy. That was pretty crazy. Yo. Hey, no way. No, I forgot something. I forgot to do something. Spacey, you are now a managed moderator. You are a moderator now. Yeah, why my screen is black? Because I cannot show my face. So I have tape over my screen. But yeah, I'm reacting to his story right now. Okay. I don't know if this will work or not.
I walked into the bathroom at my best friend Lewis's house, ready to prove once and for all that Bloody Mary was fake. Lewis leaned against the doorframe. "You really think you can do this?" I crossed my arms. "It's not real, Lewis. It's just a stupid mirror." He smirked, then reached past me, flipped off the light switch, and pulled the door shut behind me. "Okay then, get in front of the mirror and say it 3 times. There was a tiny bit of light from the hallway bleeding under the door, and I could barely see myself as I stared into the mirror. "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary." Nothing happened at first, but then I heard it. It sounded like someone was breathing from somewhere behind me in the dark. Lewis, quit messing around. Lewis's voice came muffled through the door. Dude, I'm not doing anything. I think I hear something too. A chill ran down my spine, and I spun around because I was sure someone was standing right behind me, but nobody was. I turned back to the mirror, and that's when I saw a shape moving behind my own reflection. My heart fell out my ass, and I lunged for the doorknob, but the door wouldn't open. Lewis, the door's stuck. The light started flickering, and I panicked so bad that I started throwing my whole body into the door. Lewis, help me! It finally gave way, sending me stumbling into the hallway. Lewis was standing there, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. My whole body went cold with fury instead of fear. You tricked me? He walked into the bathroom and came back out with a Bluetooth speaker. I used this and an app on my phone to control the lights. Then I just held the door shut. I shoved him into the wall. I actually thought I was going to die in there. He grinned, still catching his breath from laughing. Worth it. You should have heard yourself scream. I walked.
Why did you say brown sugar? Why did you say brown sugar? I'm gonna send something in the chat really quick. But man, that was crazy. Oh yeah, by the way, Spacey, if anybody else could watch, Spacey is my mod and my friend. He's my mod and friend, or he's my friend and mod now. So yeah, okay. We're going to the next.
The weird kid bent under his desk during lunch and started eating something that didn't look like food. But as I was about to look and see what it was, my friend laughed. Let's give him some real food. He threw a peeled orange at him, but then another kid walked by the weird kid at that moment. The orange splattered across his forehead, and me and my friends laughed as orange juice flowed down his shirt. His face went red. Oh, you think it's funny? He picked a handful of spaghetti bolognese off his tray and threw it. It covered my chest and face, and I wiped my eyes and screamed, "Food fight." I immediately hit a kid on a nearby table with my pumpkin pie, then got hit with a glass of milk right back. The lunch lady ran over and got a can of tuna to the face, and I was still laughing with milk dripping down my forehead, when suddenly a large rock hit my head. I instantly gripped my head in pain, but when I looked up, the weird kid from earlier was smiling with a handful of rocks at his table. "Food fight!" He threw another rock. I shouted, "It's a food fight, dude. You throw food, not rocks." He looked at me with a serious face. "Wait, you guys don't eat rocks?" Then he looked down at his stone. "Is this why I have no teeth?" He raised his head with his lips trembling and got splattered with a tray of lasagna. The weird kid bent under his desk. I slapped $5 on.
That's crazy. That's actually crazy. Okay, y'all. We're gonna try to react to 28 more.
On my desk and bet the class we could break our new substitute before lunch. We'd already gotten 3 subs to quit this semester, and I had $5 and my name on this bet riding on number 4. I'd seen her around the building for 2 weeks, but this was the first time she'd stood in front of our class. She wrote her name on the board, Mrs. Marsh, and started teaching like she had no idea what she'd walked into. One kid, Devin, threw a paper airplane at her and told her she had 10 minutes to walk out before we made her wish she had. She didn't flinch and kept teaching, and I could feel my $5 already escaping. A few minutes later, someone pulled the fire alarm, and she walked us outside calm as anything, counted heads twice, and walked us back in like nothing had happened. I uncrossed my arms and stopped smiling, because she hadn't even broken a sweat. When we got back into the classroom, Devin leaned over to Reagan, the girl next to him, and told her to call the front office and say Mrs. Marsh grabbed her arm, and Reagan actually did it, phone pressed to her ear, voice shaking just enough to sound real. My pulse spiked, because that wasn't a joke anymore. That could get her fired or one of us expelled, and I realized none of us had a plan for what happened if this actually worked. The whole class jumped at the sound of a ruler smacking the whiteboard. "Hang up the phone," Mrs. Marsh said. "I've seen enough." My chest finally unclenched, because whatever came next, at least it was over. She pulled a folder out of her bag, our names already written inside it, dates already logged. "I'm not your sub. I'm the new principal. I've been documenting this class for 2 weeks, including that call." I sat there frozen, realizing my name was probably already in that folder before I ever put $5 down. She turned to Reagan. "Hang that phone up for good, or I add this to your file too. Reagan dropped it like it burned her. The color drained from Devon's face. Because we hadn't been betting on a sub, we'd been betting on the principal, and she had it all on paper. My $5 circled right at the top. I slapped $5 on my desk and bet the class we could.
Wow. That is nuts. Now our top fans, Spacey. My boy Spacey. Actually, y'all should go sub to my boy Spacey. Okay.
Baby, how long can you keep me satisfied?
My arm jerked and a bark shot out of my mouth before I could stop it. The substitute's head snapped toward me. What was that? Sorry, I have Tourette's syndrome, so sometimes I can't control what I say or do. The jerks and sounds are called tics, and they just happen on their own. She crossed her arms. Yeah, right. If you want attention that bad, come to the front, and I'll make sure you get it. My throat tightened, but I had learned a long time ago that arguing with adults about this never worked, so I walked to the front of the class, even though I knew that stress always made my Tourette's worse. Standing in front of 20 other kids was about to prove that. She pointed at me. Go ahead and start your little performance. My shoulder jerked hard, and a sharp bark cracked out of my throat. A few kids laughed, then my neck twisted sideways, again and again, faster each time. You're doing that on purpose, aren't you? My chest tightened, because people accusing me of faking it always hurt worse than the tics themselves. No, I'm not, she laughed. Yeah, right. Tourette's isn't even a real thing. My face burned with embarrassment as the tics kept coming, one after another, my body completely out of
Tourette. Nah. Let me see what the real giveaway. iPhone 17 at 6 mil subs.
of my control while she stood there smirking. Then this kid in the back stood up and barked loudly on purpose. Is Tourette's contagious? Another kid jumped up and started jerking his arms around. I've got it too. Within seconds, half the class was on their feet, yelling and twitching. The substitute threw up her hands. Sit down, all of you. But nobody listened. That's when the always hurt worse than the tics themselves. No, I'm not, she laughed. Yeah, right. Tourette.
Okay, I'm searching that up. Tourette syndrome. Okay. I just searched it up. Yeah, so the Tourette syndrome is real. So yeah.
Within seconds, half the class was on their feet, yelling and twitching. The substitute threw up her hands. Sit down, all of you. But nobody listened. That's when the principal walked in. What is going on in here? The substitute tried to explain, but the kid in the back shouted over her. She made him do his tics in front of everyone and said Tourette's isn't even real. The principal glared at the substitute. Get your things. You're done here. He had security remove her from the school, and she was never allowed to come back. My arm.
Wow. Okay. I just commented that. So yeah.
Our front door burst open downstairs, and I froze in my gaming chair. I had muscular dystrophy and couldn't stand up on my own, which meant if the intruder found me here, I was toast. I heard footsteps on the stairs, and my life flashed before my eyes. But my walking cane was at my desk, and I suddenly got the most unhinged idea of all time. I used the little strength I had to put on my gaming headphones just as the door handle rattled, then faced the door and widened my eyes right when it opened. The man burst in, raising his crowbar. "Where's all the money?" But I just stared at him blankly, my heart pounding as I pretended to be blind and not see him, hoping he wouldn't hurt a blind person. He walked closer, the tip of his crowbar an inch from my face now. "Don't play dumb with me. Where's the money?" I swallowed dryly, but kept my face steady, knowing a single flinch would cook me. That's when I reached out towards my desk. My arms gave out halfway because they were so weak, but I'd gotten far enough to weakly slap my desk and pretend to search for something. He waved his hand in my face, and I knocked my $200 mouse off to really convince him I couldn't see. My fingers clamped around my walking cane, and I saw the intruder grip his head. He slowly lowered his crowbar. "I can't rob a blind person," his voice cracked, and he turned his back to me. I took a deep breath, and that's when I put all my power into lifting the cane. My tiny biceps shook as I hadn't lifted anything over 1 pound in months, but I jabbed it into the back of his neck, knowing that was the weakest part. He dropped to the floor with the crowbar still in his hand, not moving. Pretending to be blind worked. Our front door burst open downstairs, and
Why did it suddenly go like... Could you hear that at the end?
my fingers clamped around my walking cane, and I saw the intruder shook as I hadn't lifted anything over 1 pound in months, but I jabbed it into the back of his neck, knowing that was the weakest part. He dropped to the floor with the crowbar still in his hand, not moving. Pretending to be blind worked.
Walked. That's what it sounded like to me, like walked. And for some reason it sounded like walked. So yeah.
"Hey, A little girl tugged my sleeve in the mall parking lot, tears streaming down her face. "Have you seen my mommy?" I crouched down to her level, keys still in my hand. "Hey, it's okay. What's she look like?" She sniffled and waved vaguely at the entire parking lot. "She has brown hair." I figured helping her out was the right thing to do, but I was wrong. I held her hand and walked her up and down 2 rows of cars, pointing at every woman I saw, but she just kept shaking her head. "Nope, not my mommy." She squeezed my hand tighter. "Can we check by the blue car? Mommy likes blue cars." We stopped right next to mine. "Oh, this isn't your mom's car. It's mine." She looked at it for a second too long. "Can you open it? Maybe she's hiding inside as a game." I told her that didn't make any sense, but she started crying so hard I caved and hit the unlock button anyway. She peeked into the back seat, then straightened up and smiled at me. "You're a really good helper." Before I could ask what she meant, she kicked me square in the balls with everything her tiny leg had. I dropped to the pavement, and by the time my eyes uncrossed, she had already grabbed my keys and jumped behind the wheel, adjusting my seat all the way up. She rolled the window down halfway. "Tell your insurance company I said hi." Then she peeled out of the mall parking lot, going a solid 25 miles an hour. A little girl tugged my sleeve in the mall parking lot, tears streaming. I was crossing the road when the school quarterback slammed into me with his Ferrari. I went down screaming, "Ah!" and clutched my leg in pain. He stepped out of his sports car and laughed. "Oops, didn't see you there." A week later, he grabbed my wheelchair handles and was pushing me past the girls. Then he leaned into my ear and whispered, "Thanks for getting hurt, NPC. I've never been this popular." My face went hot, and I gripped the armrests in anger. "You're gonna regret this." But he laughed and kept pushing. "Never." So every night I sat in my wheelchair and curled my brother's dumbbells until my arms shook. Finally, after several days of training, I could hold my whole body off the seat. I smirked and said to myself, "It's time." The next morning at school, he grabbed my wheelchair again, so I waited until he hit a full sprint, and right as he was smiling at a girl, I clamped my hands down hard on both wheels. The chair stopped dead, and he folded over the top and went head first into the tile. That's when I rolled my wheel straight over his leg, and he grabbed it screaming while the girls watched with open mouths. I looked down at him and laughed as loud as I could. "Oops, didn't see you there." I was crossing the road when the school quarterback slammed in.
Wow. That's crazy. My friend didn't like the stream. Nah. Okay, y'all, we're going to the next video.
I was on my phone trying to.
Before we do this, I gotta do something really quick. I need some water. I'm doing this all for you guys. I'm doing all of this for you guys for content, right? Like I'm rating good content knowing I'm a small content creator.
Finish a school assignment when Dad yanked it out of my hands. No more phones in this house. They're bad for you. I instantly grabbed at his arm. But Dad, I need it for schoolwork. And what if
I called you. Why you don't answer?
I'm back. So yeah, I'm gonna be reacting to this.
I was on my phone trying to finish a school assignment when Dad yanked it out of my hands. No more phones in this house. They're bad for you. I instantly grabbed at his arm. But Dad, I need it for schoolwork. And what if there's an emergency? But he pushed me off and literally threw my phone in the bin. You kids think everything is an emergency. He carried the bin bag outside. And I watched in shock as all my means of communication got tossed in the dumpster. But the next day, while walking home, a kid drove into me with his bike and knocked me into a ditch. My ankle popped and I instinctively reached for my phone to call for help, but my heart sank as I remembered it wasn't there. I lay in the mud for over an hour, waiting for the pain to die down so I could get up. I finally limped home, soaking and in pain 2 hours later. Please, I need a phone. I showed Dad my swollen ankle, but he didn't even look up from his plate. You're not getting a phone, I tried to argue, but he slammed his fist down. No, if I ever catch you with one, I'll smash it in the driveway and ground you for the whole year. I gulped and limped upstairs, wanting to cry. But the next morning, my English teacher saw me limping. She She pressed her old phone into my hands after I explained everything and said, "It's not much, but every kid needs a way to call for help." My whole face lit up, and I immediately slipped it in my bag. I came home, crept past Dad, and every night after the house went dark, texted my friends under the covers. But then one night the front door opened downstairs while I was texting. I heard heavy footsteps, then a stranger's voice told my dad to get up. My blood ran cold, and when I quietly stepped into the hallway, a man stood in their doorway with his back to me, holding Dad at gunpoint. "Watch a necklace now." I locked eyes with Dad over the man's shoulder and slid out my phone with shaking hands. Dad's eyes widened in anger seeing my phone, but I just texted 911 and crept back in my room. I got under the covers, praying he didn't hear me, when I heard the man's voice. What was that? He turned toward my room, and my legs went numb. But suddenly the front door burst open downstairs. "Police!" They rushed in and tackled him to the ground. I got out of bed as they walked him out, shaking because my phone letting me call for help was the only reason Dad was alive. But when I looked up, he was staring at the phone in my hands with this murderous rage. He stormed over, his fists clenched, and I braced myself for him to scream. But then he hugged me. "I was wrong for not letting you have a phone. Thank you for not listening to me while I was being an idiot." I was on my phone. The smoke alarm blared through the jail in the middle of the night, and I could already see the flames flickering down the hall. A guard ran past, throwing open every cell. "Everybody out, now!" All of the prisoners scrambled into the hallway, panicking and pushing toward the exit doors, and nobody even glanced at the security room as they ran past it. That's when I saw Officer Carlson through the window in its door. "Help! The door is stuck!" My chest tightened because he was the only guard who'd ever treated me with respect, and if I didn't help him, he wouldn't make it out alive. I ran toward the security room instead of the exit. "Carlson, hang on!" I started yanking on the door. "It's jammed! I can't get it open!" He started coughing hard, and panic clawed up my throat because I knew we were running out of time. I pulled out the sharpened toothbrush handle I kept for self-defense and held it up. "Push from your side when I say go." I jammed the handle into the gap where the metal had bent from the heat and pulled with everything I had. "Go!" Carlson slammed his shoulder into the door, and it didn't budge. For a second, I thought we'd run out of time as the smoke poured thicker down the hall, stinging my eyes and burning my throat. "Try again!" He slammed into the door again, and it finally cracked open wide enough for him to squeeze through. He grabbed my shoulders, still shaking. "You didn't have to do that." I looked at him through burning eyes, trying not to cry. "You're the only one in here who has ever treated me like a person. I couldn't leave you behind." Firefighters ran in a minute later and pulled us both outside into the cold night air. The next day, Carlson stood in front of the parole board. "This man saved my life while everyone else ran straight past him." The board approved my early release that same afternoon, and Carlson was the one who drove me to the bus station. The smoke alarm blared through the jail in the middle of the night.
His story, and Carlson. Type in chat Y'all type in chat his story and Carlson. Man, they are actually good. Y'all. W. Okay. W.
Night, and I could already I was showering in my 2-foot-wide bathroom when I heard my landlord say, "And through here is the bathroom." I froze under the running water because that voice was right outside my door. My stupid landlord was showing my place to renters without telling me. I panicked and my elbows smacked both walls, but the wall was so thin it flexed where I hit it. The doorknob started rattling and the landlord told them, "The rent here is super affordable." He was clearly lying, but I knew if that door opened, all those strangers would get flashed by my exquisite body. So I threw my shoulder against the door to hold it shut, but there was no room to brace, and shampoo was burning my eyes. I grabbed for my towel, but my arm couldn't bend in that tiny bathroom, so I knocked it straight into the toilet. This place sucks. I wondered what kind of landlord gives tours while his tenant showers, but then the whole door thudded like he'd put his shoulder into it. He told the renters, "Don't worry, it'll open up. It just sticks sometimes." My legs started shaking, so I dove for the tiny window, but I got wedged halfway with my legs kicking behind me as the door started to open. I kicked off the toilet to rip myself free, and instead my whole body that flexing wall and took it with me. I crashed into the living room wrapped in the shower curtain and landed at the landlord's feet. I laid there in dead silence while 6 strangers stared at me, their eyes bouncing between me and the hole in the wall. I pulled the curtain tighter over my exquisite body. "Hey there, nice to meet you." The landlord cleared his throat. "Anyway, the rent here is $5,000. Super affordable, like I told you." I was showering in my 2-foot wide bathroom.
No. L freaking landlord. L freaking landlord. L freaking landlord. Yo, we gonna have to spam in chat. L landlord, y'all. L. Freaking L. Yeah, W Carlson and W his story.
I was 3 hours into streaming Fortnite to 0 viewers when a notification popped up. Shadow Watcher donated $1,000. My heart skipped a beat because it was the first donation I had ever gotten. Whoa, thank you, Shadow Watcher. Then I read the message out loud. Look out your window. I laughed and looked toward the window. Nice try, buddy, but there's nothing out here. I kept playing because I had no idea how bad this was about to get. Another message from Shadow Watcher popped up. Nice room. I love your Death Note poster. I froze because that poster wasn't in view of the camera. How do you know I have a Death Note poster? I lost the match because a bot crept up behind me while I was distracted and got the kill. Then another message came through. Don't worry about it. Is that your blue car in the driveway? My hands went cold and I couldn't even bring myself to hit play again. Okay, this isn't funny. Who is this? That's when I heard 3 knocks on my window, slow and deliberate. I clenched my jaw so tight my teeth squeaked as I slowly turned toward the sound. I forced myself to look out the window and saw my best friend Bobby standing outside laughing, still holding his phone. My flabbers were gasted. I threw the window open to let him in. You've been out there this whole time? He dangled halfway through the window, one leg still hanging outside. You should have seen your face when I said the poster thing. I grabbed him by the collar and hauled him the rest of the way in. Still laughing, he held up his phone. I made a second account just to mess with you. I sat back down, half furious, half impressed, forgetting the stream was still running behind me. I'm keeping the $1,000. I was 3 hours into...
Y'all. Genuinely, that's kind of funny. I don't even know how many videos we've hit. I don't even know how many shorts we're in. Okay, you know what? We're gonna check. Right here. So 12 videos in. We're 12 videos in, y'all. Yeah, 12 videos in. This will be our 13th.
I gave my girlfriend Paige her birthday present, hoping it would close the distance that had grown between us for months, but instead, she opened it, burst into tears, and ran out the door. My heart sank. Paige, wait! I ran after her, but she was already peeling out of the driveway. I didn't understand why she was upset, because she'd spent months telling me about an oil painting class she went to every Wednesday, so I'd spent $300 on a professional easel and paints, hoping it would show her I paid attention. She wouldn't answer my calls, so after 3 hours, I checked her location and found her at her parents' house. I got in my car, done guessing what I'd done wrong. When I got there, her dad stepped onto the porch and pulled the door shut behind him. Now's not a good time. Paige is upset. I crossed my arms. I deserve to know why my girlfriend just ran out crying on her own birthday. Her mom appeared next to him, pity on her face. Let him inside. There's something he needs to hear. She led me to a bedroom door and pounded on it. Paige, come out and tell him the truth, or I will. Paige stepped out. Mascara streaked down her face in dark lines. I grabbed her shoulders. What's going on, babe? You can tell me anything. She wiped her face. There was never any painting class. My stomach flipped. Then where have you been going every Wednesday? She looked at her mom, begging to be saved, but her mom shook her head. Tell him. Paige took a deep breath. I've been seeing a man from work. He's married with 2 kids, but he said he'd leave his wife for me. The room started spinning as I realized that every Wednesday I'd kissed her goodbye, thinking she was going to a painting class. She was actually driving to some hotel to cheat on me. I spent $300 on something you made up so you could destroy another family. She looked offended. I was going to tell you eventually, before or after he left his wife. She had to think about it. Her mom put her hand on my shoulder. You deserve better than this. I nodded, walked to my car, and blocked her number before I even left the driveway. I gave my girlfriend Paige her birthday present, hoping it would close the distance that had grown between us for months, but instead, she opened it, burst into tears, and ran out the door. My heart...
Wait, so... I missed an audio call on something. Oh. Yeah, 10, I missed a call. That's okay. So this was our 13th video. I'm trying to open notes. Okay, so we're on our 14th video.
Heart sank. Paige, wait! I ran after her, but she was already peeling out of the driveway.
14th out of 30.
I found my son sobbing over a plate of food while my wife knelt beside him and whispered, "Take one more bite, baby." My son sobbed, "I don't want to eat anymore, Mommy." My son dropped the fork. Everything's fine, Dad." But when I looked closer at him, I realized he'd gained a lot of weight that I hadn't noticed because of my cancer diagnosis, the one I hadn't told them about yet. Why was my wife forcing our son to be overweight? My wife smiled nervously. Anyway, I was thinking we should get eggs for breakfast tomorrow. I moved past her and pulled open the pantry. There were large containers of mass gainers sitting side by side, and a chart was taped inside the door written in my son's handwriting. I grabbed it and saw he was recording his weight gain week after week. My hands were shaking and I turned around. "Somebody tell me what's going on, right now." My wife opened her mouth to try and change the conversation topic again, but my son slammed his hands down. "No, Mom, let's just tell him the truth." He turned to me with tears streaming down his face. "Dad, I know you have cancer." I felt the wall I'd been holding up for months just collapse. He looked down at the ground. "I heard you on the phone with the doctor. You need a bone marrow transplant." And I looked it up, and it said donors have to weigh at least 110 pounds, and I was only 80 pounds when I found out. He pushed the plate away. "So I've been eating every single day, even when it hurts." I sank into the chair beside him. I'd been hiding my cancer from my family because I didn't want it to hurt them, and they were hiding the solution because they didn't want to hurt me either. Tears filled my eyes, because there was one more secret I had to tell them. Well, I guess this is a good time to tell you guys. I'm in remission. The chemotherapy was a success, so there's no need for transplants. I watched my son's face go from braced to excited, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. My wife pressed both hands over her mouth. My son wrapped his arms around my neck. "I knew we could do it, Dad." I found my son sobbing over a plate of food while my wife knelt beside him.
Okay, so I need to drink some water. Whew. If you want to see more videos, when I do on this live stream, after it happens, y'all can just like comment on the video to tell me more people to react to. Like zz-FNayy, her story, many other like people like this. Yeah, you can okay.
I don't want to. I was playing drums in a music class when the conductor raised his fist and yelled, "Cut!" His bald head turned toward me, and he walked over with a frown before pushing me off my chair. He dragged my drum kit screeching to the center of the room and asked, "Were you rushing or were you dragging?" I opened my mouth and nothing came out, so he straightened up and announced to everyone, "Nobody leaves this room until the freshman finds his tempo." My hands went cold on my sticks, because I'd practiced 2 years just to make his band, and one nod from him decided everything. I sat back down, grabbed my sticks and hammered out 4 bars, but his fist shot up and cut me dead. Rushing, again. I wiped my palms on my jeans and started over, but his fist snapped up on my second hit. Dragging, again. I mouthed the counts to myself and tried again, so he stormed over and screamed his own counts into my ear until spit hit my cheek. A trombone player groaned, "Not again. This happens every year." So he whipped around, ripped the trombone out of her hands, and laid it across my snare. "Every note she doesn't play is on you, freshman." My hands were shaking so hard my sticks rattled against the rims, but on the next count I stopped searching his face, put my head down, and just played. He slammed his hand flat on my crash cymbal and put his face an inch from mine. "Were you rushing or were you dragging?" My face heated up in an instant. I stood up, lifted my floor tom, and slammed it down over his bald head. His head punched straight through with one loud bang, and he froze with the drum hanging around his neck like a collar. I sat back down, tapped a stick against my chin, and leaned toward him. "Were you rushing or were you dragging?" He called the cops and kicked me off the band, but it was worth it. I was playing drums in a music class when the conductor...
That's crazy. I do this for y'all, dude. Like, I do this for y'all. At least we're past halfway. After this video, I gotta check.
My daughter fell into the Mississippi River, but before I could even jump in to save her, a huge Newfoundland was already dragging her out. I immediately sprinted over as he hauled her onto the bank by her coat, and my hands were shaking as I held her, because that current was strong enough to pull grown men under, and my daughter was only 6. You saved my daughter's life. You're coming with us, boy. The second we got home, I threw him the biggest steak in my fridge, and he grabbed it in his teeth and bolted out the door, and I figured we'd never see him again. But the next day, we were on a walk when I spotted another kid drowning in the Mississippi, in the exact same spot my daughter was yesterday. As soon as a crowd formed, the same dog sprinted in out of nowhere and saved the day. I raised an eyebrow and turned to my wife. Isn't it a little strange that this happened 2 days in a row? She put her hands on her hips. How dare you question a hero? But a week later, the 7th kid was drowning in the Mississippi River, and it was the 7th day in a row that the dog dragged the kid out and enjoyed his steak afterwards. I furrowed my eyebrows because no one had drowned in that river for 10 years, and now it was happening every single day. So one morning, I hid behind the boathouse and spied on him, and for 4 hours, he just slept in the sun, until I saw my wife come down the path with our daughter. The second she stopped to greet a neighbor, our daughter started chasing a pigeon, heading straight toward the bank. The dog instantly started running towards my daughter and knocked her into the water. I instantly shot up, and as soon as the dog saw me, he ran into the water, grabbed my daughter by the collar, and dragged her to the side where she coughed up water. I gasped, and the dog wagged his tail with his mouth wide open, already waiting for his steak. The color drained from my face because I couldn't believe it. He was never saving anyone. He was pushing kids in the water and then saving them because he knew someone would hand him a steak afterwards, and I handed him the very first one. That night there was a scratch at my door, and the dog was sitting on my step, still waiting for his reward. My daughter fell into the Mississippi River, but before
The Mississippi River? That's tier level craziness for me. Okay, so wait. No, we're at 16 actually, not 18. 16. So this will be the 17th. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. This will be our 17th. So we're at 17 right now.
I was in the wheelchair-accessible area of the concert, enjoying the show, when a man without a wheelchair stopped in front of me. His back was turned to me, so I tapped his shoulder. "Can you move, please? I can't see over you." But he bent down and laughed in my face. "Nope, I can't see over anyone in the general section, but nobody here blocks my view." "But you're blocking my view," I replied, and he instantly flipped his VIP lanyard up. "Okay, then do something about it. This event organizer is my dad." He laughed and turned back, standing even closer to me so I couldn't see a thing except his Gucci suit. My hands tightened because I'd saved 6 months for these tickets, having waited 5 years for this band to come to my city. They announced they'd be playing my favorite song next, and my chest went cold. "Can you move for just this song? Just this one? I've been dreaming to see it live." But he wouldn't even turn back this time. "No, this one's my favorite." I tried to wheel around him to see the song, but the row was too packed to move, and that's when my wheel bumped his hip. He instantly spun around, suddenly red in the face. "Touch me one more time and my dad will sue you so hard you'll have to sell that little transportation device just to pay him back." My chest was burning as he kicked my wheelchair hard enough to rattle it and turned back around. I waved over the security guard. He stormed over. "What's going on?" But the man just held his lanyard up. "The event organizer's my dad. Get him if you want to talk to me." The security guard looked at me, then simply walked away, and my heart shattered while everyone around me screamed the words to my favorite song. I was now nearly in tears. hours, still staring at the man's back, when suddenly, a man in a suit walked over. "What's going on, son?" My eyes widened, realizing this was the dad. The man pointed down at me. "Tell him to stop complaining. I'm trying to watch the show." I opened my mouth to explain, but the dad interrupted. "Son, would you mind pressing that button on your wheelchair?" I stared up at him, confused, but he nodded. "Press it." So I did. My chair drove straight into his son's hip, and he screamed and fell. "Dad, why did you tell him to do that?" His dad stood over him. "Since you want to watch the show from down here, you should meet the qualifications." He pressed the button on my chair for me again, driving me into his son's foot again while he screamed in pain. The next song started, and I watched the band over the top of him. Now he was the one who couldn't see over me. I was in the wheelchair-accessible area of the concert, enjoying the show, when a man...
Okay. Genuinely, knowing that he's going to the wheelchair-accessible area, that's just mean. Why would you do that if you know he needs a wheelchair? 18th video.
As soon as my dad's lawyer said his will left everything to me, I heard my brother George's hands slam against the table. That's insane. He only did that because Ryan made him feel bad by faking being blind. My throat closed up because I lost my eyesight 8 years ago in a car accident. You know that's not true. I heard his chair scrape back and the door open. "I'm going to prove you aren't blind in court, and I'm taking every penny when I do." I turned towards him. "George, wait!" But the door slammed behind him. A week later, I found myself sitting in a courtroom while George's lawyer stood at the front and presented their case to the judge. "Your Honor, we have proof the defendant isn't blind at all." Papers shuffled at their table. "We have a video of him reacting to things nobody would notice without their sight." The judge's chair creaked as she leaned forward. "Go on." I heard a laptop click open. "Watch closely, Your Honor. In this video, he turns his head every time a car passes." George cut in, his voice smug. "And he's been faking it for 8 years just to guilt our father." The judge turned her attention to me. "Ryan, can you explain the head movement?" My mouth went dry as I turned towards her voice. "Blind people turn towards sound. That's hearing, not seeing." The judge stayed quiet, and my chest went tight, because it felt like she might actually believe George over me. Dad's lawyer finally stood up. "Your Honor, before this goes any further, I need to show the court a video my client's father recorded before he died." I heard George's breath catch beside me. Then a laptop clicked open, and Dad's voice filled the courtroom. "If you're watching this, George is trying to take my will to court. I left everything to Ryan because he was the only one who visited without asking for money. George, I know you stole over $200,000 from me over the last 10 years. I have every bank record and every excuse you gave the accountant, so you get nothing." Nobody spoke until the judge cleared her throat. "I think we're done here. This case is dismissed." I heard George's chair scrape back hard, and this time nobody tried to stop him from storming out. As soon as my dad's lawyer said his will left everything to me.
Wow. That is nuts. On the 20th one, we are going to take a break.
Okay, what's your name, sweetheart? I forgot.
I was walking home from basketball practice when a car slammed into my body, and I felt a sickening crunch shoot down my legs. I screamed because my legs bent the wrong way, and the woman who hit me jumped out, panicking. "This is so bad, I have to do something." Then, instead of calling an ambulance, she grabbed me under the arms and dragged me across the pavement, my ruined legs aching with pain. "Wait, don't touch me. I need proper help." But she shoved me into her back seat. "Just stay quiet. I'll take you myself." Something was wrong, and as she sped off, I prayed she hadn't just cost me my legs forever. But moments later, she flew past the giant blue hospital sign without slowing down, and my heart stopped. The hospital was right there. "Turn around," but she gripped the wheel tighter. "I can't take you there. My insurance can't handle another accident. I'll lose everything." I gasped. She wasn't helping me. She was saving herself. "Please, I can't feel my legs anymore." But she put her hand up. "I'll buy you a new basketball, okay? Just shut up." I clenched my fists, staring down at my gray legs as the numbness crawled past my knees, and felt 10 years of basketball dreams slip away. But then I spotted a cop car 2 lanes over, and I knew I had to do something. So I lunged forward and yanked the wheel with everything I had. "Get off!" she shrieked, clawing at my arms. But I held on as the car screeched sideways, and blue lights flashed on behind us. Relief flooded me until she shoved my head below the window, forced a smile, and rolled hers down. "Sorry, officer. My brother's having a medical episode. I'm rushing him to the hospital." I saw the officer nod, telling her to have a good night, and my heart sank. So I threw myself up at the window and screamed, "She hit me with her car and kidnapped me. Look at my legs." The officer paused, and his face went cold when he saw my legs, gray and soaked in blood. "Hold on, ma'am. You said you're taking him to the hospital, but the hospital is back that way?" She panicked, her lie slipping. But the officer was already yanking her out of the car and slapping cuffs on her wrists. "I don't care. I can't afford a higher insurance bill," she screamed as they pinned her to the hood as the ambulance loaded me on, and I begged the paramedics to save my legs. But at the hospital, the doctor had to amputate my legs. But the lawsuit I won from the accident bought me a pair of robotic ones. I'll never make it to the NBA, but now I dunk on the legs she paid for. I was walking.
Wow, that's actually pretty cool. We're on our 20th video. We're on our 20th, not 29th, 20th video. I gotta close that. Okay. After we watch this video, we're gonna take a break. After we watch this video.
I pushed my girlfriend down the water slide and she screamed, "Wee! I'm so happy you took me to this vacation resort." I smiled because I was glad we were on vacation to work on our relationship together. But just as she reached the bottom, a dozen men with rifles were pouring out of the palm trees, and red laser dots were all over our bodies. I instantly ran to the bottom of the slide and grabbed her into the cave so we could survive the ambush, and I had no idea if we were going to survive. Flashlights swept past the entrance, so I clamped my hand over her sobs, but nobody was shooting, which made me more scared because it meant they wanted us alive for something very, very bad. She peeled my hand off her mouth. "This might be the last time we're alive enough to see each other, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the fights I started, the cheating, the money I took. I didn't want us to die angry at each other." So I pressed my forehead to hers and nodded. "You made a lot of mistakes, but we love each other, and that's all that matters." But before she could respond, the men surrounded us with rifles. "We found you." I held her tighter, but she stood up with her arms out. For a second, I thought she was going to take a bullet for me, but that's when every gunman lowered their rifles and screamed, "Congratulations!" A confetti cannon popped off over their heads. My heart was still pounding with adrenaline and I was extremely confused, but my girlfriend looked up at me like she was the smartest girl in the world. "I planned out this whole thing, baby. The guns, the chase, everything. Because I needed you to see that when we thought it was the end, we chose each other. We can never give up on us. I saved our relationship." I instantly vomited from shock. My girlfriend hired a dozen armed men to hunt me across an island so I'd stop wanting to leave her. I stood up and stepped past her open arms. "You cheated on me multiple times. You stole money from me, and you just made me think I was about to be killed. We're done." The gunmen went silent, and they walked me to their boat, and watching the island shrink behind us was the calmest I'd felt in a year. I pushed my girlfriend down the water.
Wow. Okay. That
"My
was-
mom is here. You have to hide."
My mom is here. You have to hide. In a boy voice? Huh? Okay, well, I'm gonna take a break. I need some food. Y'all, I'm back. We have 10 more videos to watch. So we just watched that, right? Technically. But yeah, we're at our 21st video.
My mom is here, you have to hide. I was rehearsing my proposal speech in the bathroom mirror when my girlfriend, Danielle, burst in, grabbed my arm, and pulled me into the bedroom. I clenched the ring in my fist, praying she hadn't seen it yet. Get behind the bed, Danielle whispered, shoving me behind her Murphy bed. She pushed the bed up until it clicked shut when her mom's voice floated in. Danielle, honey, where are you? I stood wedged behind the bed, not daring to move. The ring pressed flat against my palm, because if her mom found me like this, the proposal I'd been planning for months was over before it started. I heard her mom's footsteps enter the room, stopping in front of my hiding spot. Why does it smell like cologne in here? Is that worthless boyfriend of yours here? I bit my tongue to keep from arguing. No, Mom, he's not here, Danielle said, too fast. Her mom sniffed, scanning the room like she didn't believe her. Good, she said. I don't know what you see in him. My legs were cramping, but I didn't dare shift my weight. Danielle tried steering her toward the kitchen, but her mom stopped in front of the bed, close enough that I could hear her breathing on the other side. He'll never be ready for marriage, she told Danielle. Some men just aren't built for it. Every word stung because marrying Danielle was the only thing I'd ever been sure of. My hands were sweating, so my grip on the ring started slipping, and I squeezed it harder. I'll leave you alone now, but I want you to think about what I said. The tension left my shoulders as her mom's voice retreated, but the ring slipped from my palm, and I lunged for it without thinking, the sudden movement knocking the bed loose. The bed swung open and landed with a thud, spitting me out onto the mattress, panic flooding in as I watched the ring roll toward her mom's shoe. She bent down, picked it up, and examined it. Nobody moved for a second. Then I blurted it out. Danielle, will you marry me? Danielle stood wide-eyed with her hands over her mouth, but before she could respond, her mom's voice cut the silence. You hid behind a bed to propose to my daughter. Danielle started crying, then snatched the ring from her mom's hand. Yes, her mom raised an eyebrow and shook her head. Any man who'd hide behind a bed for you, she said. Maybe he's more ready than I thought. It was the closest to approval she'd ever given me. That was enough. My mom is here. You have to hide.
That was our 21st video. We're going to our 22nd. I do all of this for y'all.
I was swinging at the...
Y'all letting you know, I will do all of this even if I'm sick. Like right now I'm sick. So yeah, I'm doing this for y'all. Okay. Okay, let's watch our 22nd video.
I was swinging at the park when my mom's phone slipped out of my back pocket, and the three biggest bullies snatched it before I could grab it. They've tormented me since kindergarten, and now they dangled it over my head. Want your mommy's phone back? One of them pointed across the lot at a group of cops eating from a box of donuts on their car hood. Then go steal those donuts for us. He rubbed his belly. Papa's hungry. They whipped out their phones to record me, but I couldn't lose my mom's phone, so my legs shook toward the cops, praying I wouldn't get arrested. I snuck up behind the cop car, close enough to smell the vanilla and chocolate frosting, and my fingers grazed the box, relief flooding over me because this was easy. But then a cop slid it farther down the hood, way out of reach, and my hands started shaking. I looked back, and the bullies were recording and cackling while the whole park stared. Everything in me wanted to run, but my mom worked double shifts for that phone, so I rose onto my toes, sucked in a breath, and grabbed the box. I turned to bolt with a grin, but a huge palm dropped onto my head, stopping me cold. I spun around to a donut-loving cop towering over me, crumbs falling from his lips lips onto my face. "Are you stealing from a cop, young man?" The other cops crossed their arms behind him. I was frozen, and his hand went to his cuffs. "You're coming with me, son." Tears spilled down my face, because I'd never stolen anything in my life, but I did it for my mom. The bullies howled across the lot, and I dropped my head, sure I was going to jail. The cop marched me across the lot, but when I lifted my head, he'd stopped me right in front of the bullies. I stood there confused, until he pointed at the three of them. "You're all under arrest for theft and bullying." Their laughter died as he snatched the phones from their hands. "And you just filmed yourselves committing a crime. These are evidence now." They started crying. But the cop, "Give this boy his phone back before I add robbery to your charges." They shoved my mom's phone into my hands, sobbing, and the cop knelt down to me. "We saw those punks grab your phone and force you over here the whole time." As they got cuffed, a cop handed me a donut. "Papa's hungry," I said, biting into it in their faces. I was swinging at the park.
That's just boom. 23rd video.
Have you ever
I was sitting next to the fire with my friend Dean deep in the Appalachian Mountains when we heard a baby crying somewhere past the tree line. He immediately jumped up and I grabbed his arm. "Don't. My uncle told me if you hear something like that out here, you don't look or answer. You have to pretend you never heard it." Dean stared at me like I'd lost it, but he sat back down. I didn't tell him that my uncle also said the ones who don't listen never come back the same. The crying got closer, and Dean gripped his knees so hard his knuckles went white. "I can't just sit here. I've got a daughter at home. What if it was her?" I shook my head. "It's not a real baby. Not out here." The crying stopped dead, then started again a few feet closer. Dean stood up and grabbed the flashlight. "I'm going to check. I can't just do nothing." I grabbed his sleeve, but he shook me off, walking straight toward the sound. "Dean, stop." He didn't turn around, and 30 seconds later, my heart sank because I couldn't see his flashlight anymore. I sat frozen at the fire for what felt like an hour before I heard footsteps coming back through the brush. Dean stepped into the firelight, smiling like nothing had happened. "False alarm, man. I guess we were just hearing things." Every word came out flat, like he was talking without breathing at all, and I realized this thing wasn't Dean. I grabbed my knife off the log beside me and backed away from the fire. "Get away from me!" The thing wearing Dean's face tilted its head all the way to one side, farther than a neck should bend, and the sound of the baby's cry came out of its mouth. It lunged at me, then the fire went out. I was sitting next to the fire with my friend Dean.
For some reason, I can actually do that. Holy, this thing is hot. I'm on a computer right now and it's very burnt. We've been going on for an hour. Woo! I'm good. Genuinely, I'm doing this for y'all.
I pulled a metal wall.
24th.
Water bottle from my bag and chucked it at the teacher across the hallway, praying it would hit her. Earlier that day, I'd accidentally dumped my lunch tray on the biggest senior in school, and he told me he'd be waiting for me after school to beat me up, so I was trying to get detention to avoid him. The water bottle cracked Ms. Okafor in her back, and she spun around. "Oh my God!" I braced for screaming and detention, but she shook my hand. "Thank you so much." That popped my hip back into place. I haven't felt it pain-free in years. She walked off smiling, and when I looked over, Brad was looking at me, clutching his knuckles. When I saw the principal round the corner, I tried pulling the fire alarm. He looked at my hand on the lever. "Did you set this off?" I said yes, thinking this was definitely detention, but he grabbed my shoulders. "You're a hero, son. The toaster in the teacher's lounge is on fire. We need to evacuate." The whole school instantly spilled onto the campus, and Brad walked over next to me. At 3 o'clock, I'm bringing a knife. My hands shook in fear and frustration because how hard was it to get detention? We started walking back inside because the building was safe, and that's when I stuck my leg out. My teacher face planted in front of our whole class, then looked right at me. "Extra homework!" I grabbed my head and threw my arms in the air. "Can I please have detention instead?" But she crossed her arms. "No, Brad wants to whoop your ah, and I'm not gonna stop him because that's what a delinquent like you needs." I stared in disbelief as Brad chuckled behind me. 2 hours later.
What? No! Nope. I'm gonna let a bear do the rest of this. I'm gonna let a panda do the rest of this for me. Okay? I could turn on the webcam, but no. I'll probably show my face on accident. And then I have to delete this and restart. Ah! I'm doing this.
Later, the bell rang, and I walked to the bike rack, legs shaking. I tried to grab my bike and just hurry off, but Brad turned the corner smiling. He walked straight towards me grinning, and I raised my trembling fists, ready to fight. That's when a teacher came sprinting. He stepped in front of Brad. "What did I tell you? You have detention with me today. Let's go." Brad's jaw went tight, and he followed him inside, locking eyes with me the whole way. I watched Brad sit down in detention, and my stomach went cold. If my plan to get detention worked, I'd be locked in with Brad right now. I pulled a metal water bottle from my bag and chucked it at the teacher across the hallway.
Holy. So he was trying to get detention, but if he did get detention, I mean, the extra homework thing, I'm going to say that's bad. That's bad. He has to do extra homework, though. It's like a button. I think I made a button. But that's crazy. We're on like our 25th, I think. Just to make sure. We're on our 24th. We're on our 25th video. These 5 other videos are gonna be done.
I was in a boxing ring.
Okay, I gotta update this because we're on our 25th video. 25th video.
When a right hand slammed into my face and put me flat on the canvas. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard the announcer scream, "Tonight's winner gets 50 grand on the spot in cash." I immediately tried to push myself back up and reminded myself that my wife was in a hospital bed waiting for me. The only way I could save her was by the grand boxing match. That's when the champ who just knocked me down screamed, "Watch this," and replayed his punch for the crowd, and I froze. His left shoulder would dip right before the right hand came out. He'd just shown me how his best punch starts, so I bit down on my mouth guard and climbed up before the count hit 10. He saw me stand up and immediately rushed over, pinning me in the corner. Every punch that hit my face made the lights flash white. I covered up and watched for that left shoulder, but he just picked me apart with jabs, saving the big one for the cameras. My legs went to jelly. My right eye swelled shut, so the ref grabbed my gloves and asked, "Can you go on?" But a stopped fight would pay nothing, so I shoved his hands off and yelled, "I can do this all day." The bell rang, and my cornerman dragged me onto the stool. He had his phone pressed to his ear, but one look at his white face told me it was bad. "The hospital said your wife's condition got worse. They're prepping her tonight, but they need the money before they operate." The crowd noise dropped out of my ears, and my mind just went blank. I pushed off the stool before the break even ended. Across the ring, the champ spread his arms to the whole arena. "This is the last round this man ever fights." He was right. He rushed over and rocked me with a combo, and the whole arena came up on their feet. I could barely see, but I kept my good eye locked on his left shoulder. He turned to the cameras and wound up that same right hand for the highlight reel, and that's when the shoulder dipped. I ducked under it with everything I had left and landed my counter clean on his chin. He dropped like a sack of potatoes. The ref counted him out while I held myself up on the ropes, and the announcer grabbed my arm yelling, "He wins! 50 grand cash on the spot." I grabbed the stack of cash and climbed through the ropes, and behind me, my cornerman was yelling into his phone, "Tell her he's on his way." My wife made a full recovery, but the first thing she did when she woke up was ban me from ever boxing again. I was in a boxing ring when a right hand slammed into my face and put me flat on the canvas.
We're on our 26th video. I keep count with this on notes.
My friends and I were having a beach bonfire for my birthday when red and blue lights flashed and a cop ATV pulled up. "Party's over. Clear out, now!" He kicked sand all over us, and everyone started packing up, but my drunk friend Danny shoved the cop in the chest. "Piss off! You're not ruining my boy's birthday!" Everyone froze, and the cop reached for his belt. "You just put your hands on an officer, son. Big mistake." But I stared in horror, because Danny never knew when to quit, and this was about to get crazy. The cop yanked out his handcuffs and grabbed Danny's wrist. "You're under arrest," but Danny hit him with some drunk jujitsu move and smacked smacked the cuffs out of his hands. Nah, bruh, you should be arrested for being a party pooper. The cop's eyes went wide. Then he grabbed his radio. Requesting backup, he pointed at all of us. Everyone here is coming to the station tonight, including the birthday boy. My heart sank, and everyone panicked, but Danny just grinned. Oh yeah? How you gonna get us there? The cop scratched his head, confused, until Danny snatched the ATVs right off his belt, hopped on, and floored it down the beach. Try to catch me, boy! The cop sprinted after him as we all chased behind. That's a felony. You're going to prison. I wanted to die because this was embarrassing, until Danny swerved, almost hitting a screaming woman on the sand, and drove the ATV straight into the crashing waves. He vanished under the water, and everyone gasped because I was sure he'd either drowned or is getting life in prison. But then I saw Danny burst out of the massive waves, gasping. The woman he'd almost hit was screaming and pointing at the water. My son is drowning, officer, help him! Then Danny came up carrying a limp little boy, coughing but alive. Everyone was stunned because he did something no sober person would do. Just then, 3 cop cars pulled up as he laid the kid in his sobbing mother's arms. She angrily pointed at the cop. That guy saved my baby, and he's not even a real cop. You just stood there. What kind of cop are you? The other officers shook their heads and told him to go to the station. Danny put his hand on my shoulder. Happy birthday, bro. Then he collapsed face first into the sand. My friends and I were having a beat.
He died. Died. No. What should we do on the 29th video?
Babe, I built a urine purifier. We'll have
I was mid-set on the bench press with my service dog Rex beside me when a woman yanked my earbuds out. Get that mud out of here. This is a gym, not a dog pound. I racked the bar and snatched my earbuds back. He's a service dog. I'm a vet. He helps with my PTSD. Right then, a rack of weights slammed down, and the bang sent me straight back to the war. But Rex leaned into my side until I could breathe again. She laughed. Nice try. PTSD isn't real, and I'm allergic to dogs, so it...
Just like we did with the Tourette, we're gonna search PTSD is real, I know it. Look at this. Look at this. Yes, PTSD is real. Real and recognized. I'm gonna copy this just so I can act cool. Put it on. Dude. Okay. There.
Can't be here, but I could tell she was lying, and I wasn't going to let her take him. I picked up the bar hoping she'd go away, but instead she waved down a staff member and pointed at Rex. That dog is a health violation and I'm allergic. She fake coughed. Get it out. The miserable employee rolled his eyes. Sir, we've had a complaint. The dog needs to go outside. I stood up fast. No, he's a federally protected service animal, you can't. But heavy plates crashed onto the gym floor, and the war memories came back, my hands shaking, my breath tightening. I knew if they took Rex, I'd have a panic attack right there, but before the employee could even move, she snatched Rex's leash herself. Don't worry, I'll tie this mutt to a pole outside. The employee just shrugged and walked off, and as more weights banged around me, the war roared louder, my legs turning to stone. I reached for Rex, but he was already being dragged toward the door, and I couldn't move to save him. The gunfire in my head roared, and I collapsed, my vision blurring as I screamed. But from across the so hard he knocked the woman flat, dragging her halfway to me before landing on my chest. His weight pressed down until the gunfire faded and the room came back. The manager stormed out. What is going on here? The woman scrambled up. That dog attacked me. I'm allergic. He glanced at Rex, calmly lying on me. Funny, you're not sneezing. Then he turned to the employee. You can't read the giant service dog on his vest? You're done. And to her, you're banned. As she stormed off, Rex licked my cheek and I finally finished my set. I was mid-set on the bench press with my service dog Rex.
Good job, Rex. Good job. We're on our 28th video. 28th video.
The doctor wouldn't even look at me as he slid a folder across his desk. Your daughter needs another round of treatment within 6 weeks, or her organs will start shutting down. My wife squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. Will insurance cover it? He shook his head. They already denied it. It'll be $40,000 out of pocket. I started to cry because I'd already sold my truck and drained our savings, and the fear of losing her made my chest hurt. What are we going to do? My wife squeezed my hand. We'll figure it out. I had no idea she already had a plan of her own. That night, I woke at 2 in the morning and found her sitting in the living room in the dark, scrolling on her phone. What are you doing up? She jumped so hard she dropped it. Couldn't sleep. Just reading about treatment options. She locked the screen fast and shoved it in her pocket. On the way back to bed, I passed my daughter's room and poked my head in to check on her. My heart broke because she was struggling to breathe and coughing in her sleep. The next night, my wife grabbed her purse, refusing to look at me. I'm going to visit my sister for a few hours. Something felt off, so I waited until she pulled out of the driveway, then followed her in my own car, my mind racing through explanations that made less and less sense. She drove past her sister's street and pulled into a grocery store parking lot. Then she backed into a dark corner facing the emergency exit and pulled on a black ski mask, and a chill ran down my spine. I pulled up beside her and got out before she could drive away. What are you doing? She started sobbing. I'm going to rob this store for the money. My legs turned into noodles. You can't. Her eyes went cold. I can. I'd rob 100 of them to keep her alive. For a second, I thought about stopping her. Then I pictured our daughter's face in that hospital bed, and nothing else mattered. I walked around to her passenger seat and got in. I'm not letting you do this alone. Got another mask? Inside, my hands shook so hard I could barely hold the bag, while she calmly emptied the register. We were back in the car within 90 seconds, neither of us speaking the whole drive home. 6 weeks later, our daughter finished her treatment, and now she's healthy and thriving. The doctor wouldn't even look at me.
Who should try modding? Everyone who
My dad.
We are on the 29th out of 30 videos. Holy, this has been going on for a long time. A sandwich. I'm sorry, what? Wow, that's crazy. 29th video. Just to make sure it's my 29th video, okay? Yep, my 29th video, y'all. Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. I had to eat 100 donuts as our final video.
Dad slammed the brakes at a red light, and the sudden shock sent my peanut butter jelly sandwich flying out of my hands. It splattered across the seat, and Dad instantly turned, jelly dripping from his hair. I know you did that on purpose. You're getting the belt when we're home. My chest froze, and I begged him it was an accident. But suddenly the door opened. A man in a ski mask slid in next to me and pressed a gun against Dad's headrest. Drive now. I went cold with fear, and Dad's hands began shaking. Just take my car, man. I don't want trouble. But the man smiled. I don't want your car, Mr. Reeves. I want you and your kid. Drive to the old packaging plant. My legs trembled because he knew Dad's name. Sir, why are you doing this? My voice shook as we pulled onto the main road, but the man just clenched his jaw. Because in college, your dad bullied my sister until she jumped off a bridge. So now I'm gonna teach your dad what it's like to lose family. He smiled at me, and my throat instantly closed up as I realized this meant he would kill us. He shoved the gun harder, now dry, but then his voice suddenly slurred. He tilted to the side and scratched his wrist, and that's when I saw red bumps start climbing up his arm. What the hell? He looked down at his hand. Peanut butter was smeared all over it from where he'd slid in. Is that peanut butt? His throat closed around the word as his fingers lost strength and let go of the gun. It dropped to the floor mat as he slumped against the window. I'm allergic to pee. Dad instantly parked and jumped out, restraining the man while I kicked his gun into the street and called 911. The paramedics carried him off breathing through a tube, and a cop told us that dropped peanut butter sandwich probably saved our lives. We got back in the car trembling, and Dad picked up my squished sandwich. You're lucky that man got in. You'd be getting the belt if your stupid act hadn't saved us. My dad slammed the brakes at a red light, and the sudden shock.
Holy! I'm watching this. I'm doing this live. My friend's still on ATV now. I had that opened. But, yo, that's crazy. So, we are on the 30th video. This is where we end the stream, y'all.
I shoveled my 61st donut into my mouth, fighting the urge to get sick. And when I looked over, my opponent was already swallowing donut number 70. I'd entered the annual donut eating contest because the winner got $20,000, and I needed that money to afford my daughter's cancer surgery to save her life. She was front row cheering me on like I was her donut eating hero, but 60 Boston creams had me questioning if her surgery was actually even worth it. I picked up my 60-second donut wanting to cry because I needed to reach 100 to win when something from the crowd caught my eye. My opponent's kid was pointing and laughing at my daughter's bald head, screaming that her dad was a loser while she tried covering her head with tears in her eyes. My fists clenched under the table and we made eye contact, but I knew screaming at him wasn't going to save her. Eating donuts was. So I closed my eyes and started shoveling. The crowd's jaws dropped as I stuffed donut after donut, chugging water between bites, and with 10 donuts and no will to live left, I finally passed my opponent. My daughter pumped her fists as momentum was on my side, but then it happened. When the judges turned to the scoreboard, my opponent quickly slid 4 donuts off his stack onto mine. He grinned, and I slumped over my table in horror because nobody had seen it but me. Give it up. Your daughter's surgery isn't happening. He laughed over his stack of 7 while mine now had 14. My vision blurred as I raised my head, ready to tell my daughter the Boston creams had defeated me. But then I saw her writing something on a giant piece of cardboard. Her weak fingers trembled as she pressed the pen down, but she finished, then stood up and raised the sign over her head. Go, Dad. I love you. Her hands wobbled because she barely had the strength to hold it up, but she was trying for me anyway, and I realized I needed to try for her too. So while my opponent laughed and ate slowly, I grabbed the next donut and shoved. The next 2 minutes can only be described as peak athletic human performance. And as I stuffed the very last donut into my mouth, my opponent gripped his head, realizing what was happening. I swallowed, and the judge immediately grabbed my wrist and threw it in the air. We have a winner! I broke down crying as the $20,000 check was handed to me, and my daughter crashed into my arms screaming, "You did it, Daddy!" I hugged her tight. No, kiddo, we did it. But then I felt my stomach turning as I sent the 100 Boston creams all over my opponent. I shoveled my
Holy! 1 hour, 23 minutes of that. Well, technically. 1 hour, 23 minutes. Wow. Well, that is the end of the stream. So, bye!